Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. The topic of today is Humanity First in Switzerland. My name is Dr. Yasin Bajwa and I have the honor to interview Dr. Shamim Qazi Saab. Dr. Qazi Saab, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, as you have already said my name, so I'm by training a pediatrician. After working in Pakistan for 20 years, I came to Switzerland, and I started working in World Health Organization. So I'm basically worked as a researcher over there, and 2-3 years ago I retired, but still work with them as a consultant, along with some other places also.
Now, you are also the chairman of Humanity First Switzerland. Before asking you about the activities of Humanity First Switzerland, can you tell us in a nutshell what is Humanity First? What is the idea behind this?
Humanity First was launched in 1995 by the fourth successor of the Promised Messiah, Hazrat Mirza Tahir Ahmad Sahib, who is the fourth Khalifa of the Jamaat. And his idea was that we should have an organization which should be started in the beginning.
Now, since when do we have Humanity First Switzerland, and in which fields is Humanity First Switzerland working?
Humanity First officially has been there for several years now. I think about 6-7 years that it has been registered in Switzerland. But even before that, we had been working unofficially by collecting funds through from various people to help Humanity First activities in other countries. But since the registration of Humanity First Switzerland, as is our mandate that we need to help people who are in most need, so our focus has been working with the people in need in Africa, specifically in Zimbabwe and some other African countries.
Which are the main fields in which you are working?
Humanity First itself has about 8 or 9 different fields in which they focus on in several different places.
Perhaps you could just tell in short which are the fields, and then we go on discussing.
Yes, it started with disaster relief initially, when people would have an earthquake or a flood or something like that, so then Humanity First would go there. But later on, gradually, it went into other fields also, like gift for sight, helping people with blindness, eye operations, and also eyeglasses, etc. Then water for life, many places in the world where drinking water is not available. Education, setting up of schools, medical services, providing hospitals and medical camps and dispensaries, etc. Orphan care, community engagement, and then food security. Lots of people go hungry and because of their poverty and other things. So all these areas where Humanity works in various parts of the world. In some places it works on few of these things, in some places it works on all of these things.
Now, you have mentioned more than once life. So it is life in danger where you are going and you are helping. One field which is most important is food for life. You have said you went to Zimbabwe. How have you chosen Zimbabwe? Why did you exactly go to Zimbabwe?
Many countries in Africa are in need. Zimbabwe is one of those countries which is economically in a quite a difficult situation. And if you remember, there used to be a kind of hyperinflation at one time that you couldn't even buy ordinary food. So even nowadays, it's one of those countries where there is a lot of need, poverty, and problems. There are many other African countries also. Humanity First organizations which are established in the developed world, one of the countries, it's like Switzerland, like UK, Germany, Canada, etc. All of these organizations have taken upon helping some African countries. And Zimbabwe is a country which is working with Humanity First Switzerland, whereas other countries are working in other countries in Africa.
In Zimbabwe, is only Humanity First Switzerland working, or do you have other branches of Humanity First who are working together with you?
Humanity First International also, which is the overall umbrella organization of Humanity First registered organizations all over the world, we are registered now in 52 countries. So Humanity First International also, helps and guides us on how to do various activities in different countries.
How is it coordinated?
There is a set-up establishment in Humanity First International, which has administration and communication and other kinds of those things. And all the 52 chapters of Humanity First in the world basically use the Humanity First logo, which is a standard logo, and similarly have a standard process in each country on how to establish and what fields to work in and how to work in, so that there is a one kind of activity overall as Humanity First all over the world, and it's not considered as different Humanity Firsts are working in a different way.
We will later on discuss about the other fields. Did Humanity First ever had problems in their activities? Now, for example, in Zimbabwe, where you are working.
We never had any problems in working in Zimbabwe, but obviously whenever we do an activity in Zimbabwe, we have to take permission from the government and the necessary departments which are there, police or intelligence or the different ministries which are involved. If you're doing health work, then we have to take permission from the Ministry of Health, and similarly, from other departments, etc. But there are countries, where people sometimes have created difficulties for Humanity First to provide humanitarian assistance. So that is there in some countries it happens.
Now, as a Swiss organization, how did you work in this field, food for life in Zimbabwe? What have you done there? Can you give an interesting example which you have seen?
Yeah, we actually, we also work with the MDI community in Zimbabwe, which are, provide local volunteers which are available in all our countries. One of the main things about Humanity First is that very little of our monies that we collect for donation is spent on Humanity First administrative work. Most of the times that the volunteer gives is either voluntary time, even the travel expenses, etc., many times borne by the volunteers. So most of the money which is collected goes to help the needy people. So when we were started working with Humanity First with Zimbabwe, they mentioned that there is a need for doing some medical services and also providing some food services there. When we looked at the provision of medical services, we found that none of us who were going from outside, although we were physicians, we were not registered there. So we were not allowed to see patients there. So we thought that at that time, a better idea would be to help people with food security, etc. There's a lot of poverty there. So first thing which we did was, in several places, we provided food to a family which could be sufficient for 2 weeks or so. So in that sense, the first activity that we did for food was we nearly helped about 800 families and provided them with meals which are local, things which we got from there and distributed in their villages. But in those villages, first we took into confidence the village leaders, the local politicians. So in each of these activities, local councillors and village elders were involved with us, and they helped actually distribute the food and also identify families who actually needed them. So the lists were prepared beforehand, but even then, whenever we were trying to distribute that day, more people would come, and then sometimes we would have to divide the hampers which we had prepared for one family so that everybody could get something and they were not really, left out of that exercise.
I traveled in Africa and I've seen that very often the women, they get up very early in the morning and they need hours to get water. And then they bring the water home, which is dirty. I would say if someone from Europe would drink this water, would get serious problems. So, water for life is another field in which you have been working in Zimbabwe and also in Nigeria, I assume. Um, can you tell what Humanity First Switzerland has done in this field?
If you take an example of, say, Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe has a serious problem of clean drinking water, especially in the rural areas. Most of the water they get is from hand pumps. There are about 50,000 hand pumps, but in fact about half of them are actually functional, and rest of them are not functional. And in some areas that we distributed the food last time when we went there, we saw that the water they had collected for use was not clean. So we asked them, where did you get this water? So a woman had to walk 40 minutes to get drinking water. They could get a little dirty water for washing and other things, which was about 20, 30 minutes walk. But 40 minutes walks is quite a bit, and especially if you have to carry then heavy cans on your head, etc. So that led us to take interest in this area, and we thought that we should try to provide clean water where there is this kind of difficulties. So we have been supporting people over there in getting wells bored, and so that they could get clean drinking water available there. And in one or two places we have also helped repair the well which was actually not functioning. And it was, so say a well for the people, say about 200 families was not functional and they were not able to provide water. So we supported getting the water pumps and solar panels, etc., for them to do that. And same kind of thing we did in Nigeria also, in Ilorin in once. So we are planning to actually support more wells in Zimbabwe in some difficult areas, and hopefully that will resolve not a lot of difficulties, but at least for some places. We can show you some pictures or short videos of the kind of help that has been provided over there. Similarly, for the food, support also, which you mentioned, that we can show you some activities that were done there and the help which people received and there.
The question will come, well, this is a job of the country, of the government. So you are an NGO, a foreign NGO working in Zimbabwe. What is the feeling? Actually, it should have been the job of the government which they are not doing so? What is your answer to this question?
See, yes, hardly any government has enough money or enough resources, especially in the low resource settings like Africa, Asia, Latin America, etc., that they can provide everything which is needed by their people. So to just depend upon the government and saying that government will do everything is, I think, is kind of wishful thinking in a way. Not that we can do a lot, but I think every drop helps. So Humanity First tries to help in even very small little ways of wherever they can, but we work with try to work with the governments and the local authorities so that our work is not taken as a competition for them, but rather as supporting them and helping them cover some of the deficiencies that may be there.
Now we have seen food for life, water for life, disaster relief. One specific field is also a medical field, which is gift of sight. Can you tell us exactly how many people could you reach in this field?
Having blindness is a big handicap. We are very fortunate. We can see each and everything and then enjoy colors and lights and all the other things. But if you can imagine a person who becomes blind, either is born blind or later on becomes blind because of old age, etc., it's really a big handicap. So we worked with an organization which is based in Zimbabwe called Council for the Blind, which has been working there for decades and providing help and facilities to blind in shape of eye camps and in the shape of eyeglasses, etc., on low cost so that they can. So we worked with them, and there's a teaching hospital in Zimbabwe where the ophthalmology department, which is the eye department, there has got very good eye specialists who give time to actually go around in the country and do eye camps. And in those eye camps, the objective is to get 100 or 150 blind people from that very community where they are doing the camp, and to get them together in a hospital, usually a district hospital, where you have an operation theater where you can do the surgery and provide them with artificial lenses through cataract operations, etc. So over a period of 2-3 years, 70, 80, 100 or 150 people are helped in a very concentrated manner. So we have supported one such camp in Zimbabwe, and we saw the need which is there. There are about 1 million blind people in Zimbabwe, which is a huge number. So we can't really say that we are helping a lot, but we did support one eye camp, and now we are collecting funds to support more. Hopefully, inshallah, over the next year or so, we will be able to support by the funds that we're trying to collect through this telethon, at least 2 or maybe 3 eye camps there.
What is the further planning for Humanity First in Zimbabwe?
We are planning 2-3 things. Like I said, one is to help with eye camps, working with the Council for the Blind, which is a registered organization with the government of Zimbabwe, and they are very well respected in that sense. Second is providing water support, clean water support in different places, and try to see if we can help repair some of the hand pumps which are actually not functional there. And we are also exploring the possibilities of doing some help with the schools, whether children need some books or some stationery or furniture in the schools, etc., that we have started to look into. We have not yet done anything, but we have started to look into that also.
Mm-hmm. I think a very important role also the women are playing, and we are going to discuss this with Dr. Zaitoon Kazmi Saiba. And perhaps one last question which I would like to ask you, or two questions. One, which was the most difficult moment in your during your stay or stays in Zimbabwe?
When you think of difficulty, when you live in Switzerland, you sometimes find small little things difficult, right? But if you have visited Zimbabwe and you have seen how people live over there and the difficulties they face, you start believing that, the difficulties which they are feeling, whatever discomfort that I have, is basically nothing, not even minuscule of what difficulties they face. So although we did face some difficulties, like traveling from one place to another takes a lot of time, the roads, etc., and sometimes the signs are not there, you're lost or taken a wrong turn, etc. But they have been nothing. They basically, at the end of the day, it's very limited. I'll give you an example. The eye camp which we were trying to support, when we reached there, that area had somehow, there was no electricity that day. When we reached there, it was pitch dark. So we had to use torch and also candle to find the place we actually were staying. And in this room where we were staying, there was also no light. The light was not there. So we were using our phone battery or phone torch, etc., to move about and go to the washroom, etc. Next day, the hospital operation theater was supposed to be ready for us to start the operations. At 8 o'clock, we were set. When we reached there, they said, we don't have electricity. And they had talked with the electrical department and who had said that they would provide electricity, but somehow it is not there. So then we had to pay somebody to go to an adjacent city, buy fuel for the generator. So they brought the full fuel from the other city for the generator. So we were able to only start, the operations and other things by about 10:30 or 11 o'clock, because, so these are kind of, you can say, difficulties, which, but, then at least they tell you to plan better next time. So next time when we do this kind of thing, we will try to get fuel in advance so that, such difficulties are not faced. Another thing which I find actually unfortunate, we later on found, actually, after the camp was finished, that there were some people in the nearby communities who wanted to come for the eye surgeries, but they did not have enough money to come from their village to the hospital. In the hospital, we had made arrangements in the wards for them to stay and food, etc., that we had supported. But we had not really supported, bringing people from the villages to the hospital. They did not even have enough money for transport, which is not a lot. It was probably even for less than $1 or something for the fare, etc. So next time we will also prepare well for that.
I think very interesting what you have said. When I come back from Pakistan, and then sometimes I would like to go and eat some ice cream. And then the ice cream is here 3 franc, 4 franc. Then I remember, oh, that's 400 rupees. Then I leave the ice cream because I say you can feed so many people. So it's something very similar also with Pakistan. Well, thank you very much for these very interesting answers which you have given. And now, dear friends of MTA, now we are going to shift the topic and we are going to focus on capacity and skill development, and especially on the focus on women.